Larry Legend might have just single-handedly pulled the curtain back on LeBron. The online basketball world. It is in absolute meltdown mode. If you missed it, Bird sat down for an interview and faced the ultimate question: who reigns supreme between Kobe and LeBron. The reaction was visceral, like a switch flipped. His demeanor shifted instantly. He didn't just answer, he snapped.
You must be joking. We're done here.
But he didn't stop there. He dug deeper, breaking it all down and exposing the reality of what went down. Behind closed doors with the Mamba. Believe me, this is heavy. You have to grasp why Bird lost his cool when that interviewer had the audacity to compare Bryant to James. He wasn't ticking off LeBron out of spite. He was furious because the inquiry itself was an insult, a slap in the face, to the game, the history, and especially to Kobe. Bird comes from an era where greatness was forged in fire, not public relations strategies. You do not crown yourself king on Instagram. Bryant never did. Jordan never did. Killers let the scoreboard do the talking, but there is one guy demanding the title. Just watch.
That one right there made me the greatest player of all time.
For so many reasons.
That is a man crafting a narrative, managing optics, and polishing headlines before he even steps on the hardwood. Kobe, he was pure obsession, sacrifice, agony.
We all can be masters at our craft, but you have to make a choice. What I mean by that is inherent sacrifices that come along with
The late-night tape study, the pre-dawn lifts, taking the defensive matchups that broke other men. That is what made him a nightmare. You saw the fear in his opponents before tip-off. LeBron is different. He seeks the perfect setup, comfort. He needs optimized scenarios where the system caters to him, never the reverse. That is not hoop greatness. That is branding. Word is Bird heated up because the press keeps shoving James into debates reserved for gladiators, not just scorers or athletes, warriors, men like Kobe, Jordan, and Larry himself. Players who instilled terror. Dragging LeBron into that arena is a category error. The rage wasn't personal, it was principled. Certain comparisons are not up for debate. They are about reality. And the reality, Kobe Bryant was a warrior. LeBron James is a corporation. One is fear and fire. The other plays ball like a CEO, runs a marketing tour. This is where it gets deep. Bird shutting down the Kobe LeBron argument wasn't bitter nostalgia. This is a legend whose word holds weight like a 6'9", forward carrying a franchise. To get why Bird has the clearance to say this, check the resume. Bird hit the league in 1979 with Boston, the grittiest era the association ever witnessed, and he ran it, back when hand-checking was legal. Centers stood in the paint like brick walls. Guys like Bird and Magic fought for every single inch of space. He played through damage that would sideline modern stars for months. Take the 1985 playoffs versus Philly. Dislocated shoulder in Game 2. He stayed in, dropped 20 points and 10 boards. Let that sink in. The man popped his shoulder out and still finished with a double-double. And he wasn't playing against scrubs. We are talking Magic. Kareem with that 7'2" frame and the unguardable skyhook. Dr. J and the GOAT himself. Jordan, flash forward. Bird didn't just survive, he evolved into a head coach. He strategized against Kobe and Shaq, then became an exec. He witnessed Bryant's grind, the pre-dawn sweat, the obsessive study, that Mamba mentality. He also watched LeBron, saw the dunks, the stats, the highlight reel. But the distinction, James has always operated like an icon, first hooper second. It is manufactured, tailored for the cameras. Bird sees right through the facade. And let us be honest, Larry Legend does not need clout. He isn't chasing engagement or trending topics. He doesn't need to leverage Kobe or LeBron for relevancy. Like the King stands claim about anyone who dissents. Bird is just cut from that cloth. He is the type to look you in the eye and tell the hard truth. When he brushed off LeBron, he was declaring this is not even a conversation. Bird survived the league's most brutal era. He knows how legends are made, and he has stood on every side of the hardwood. But this is the moment Bird absolutely dismantled that strange debate entirely. When the topic came up, Kobe versus LeBron, you would expect the standard political sidestep. A beat of silence, a safe middle ground. Not Bird. He gave it to us straight.
But if you want to have fun like I did with Bill Walton, you play as LeBron.
Really?
It'd been probably more fun to play with LeBron But if you want to win and win and win, it's Kobe.
That single sentence carries more weight than 1,000 hot takes or op-eds ever could. Dissect it. When Bird mentions fun, he is pointing at the spectacle. The thunderous slams, the viral clips, the made-for-TV moments that look so easy. It is entertainment, absolutely, but that is where it stops. Then you have the winning. That is Kobe through and through. The grind in the dark, taking the defensive matchups that broke other men. Playing through pain, shattered digits, torn tendons. He demanded that final shot even with the defense collapsed on him. That made him a nightmare to guard, a true killer on the floor. Bird wasn't claiming LeBron as a loser. He was implying he lacks that specific cold-blooded instinct. LeBron thrives on leverage, narrative control, and calculated environments. Kobe simply existed for the game, and everyone in his orbit felt it. That is why the quote hits like a hammer. Bird didn't need spreadsheets or advanced analytics. Frankly, this 2-decade argument is ridiculous, and Larry Legend ended it with one perfectly sharp observation. Kobe was the sport in its most primal form. LeBron is the spectacle. And in the view of the old guard and the purists, that difference closes the case. Kobe never chased likes or approval ratings. He chased ghosts. Specifically, his entire blueprint was traced directly from Michael Jordan. And not just watching tapes, I mean forensic analysis.
Like, is Michael Jordan a friend of yours?
He's a good mentor, man. He's like a big brother.
He is, okay.
Yeah.
Bryant didn't just consume highlights. He deconstructed the mechanics, footwork, shoulder tilt, how Mike baited opponents into traps 3 steps early. He would loop a single play endlessly to decode the physics. It was pathological in the most brilliant way. People forget Kobe hunted Jordan down in the late 90s. He asked the questions other pros were too arrogant to voice. How do you clear space without being fast? How do you manipulate a guy's center of gravity? How do you disguise the same kill shot so it looks new every night?
His technique was flawless. I wanted to make sure my technique was just as flawless.
Been down a half court and he wanted to know how, when I turn around on my jump shot, how to feel the defense. I told him you should feel the defense with your legs.
And Jordan actually admitted Kobe was the only guy who really tested him psychologically because the kid didn't want an autograph. He wanted the code. And it wasn't just Mike. Magic Johnson, the architect of Showtime, went on record stating Kobe was the nearest thing to his airness we have ever witnessed.
Really break it down for us, because it seems like Kobe is the closest thing we've ever seen to MJ.
Molly, you're absolutely right.
For the younger crowd just tuning in, understand the weight of that statement. Magic battled Bird, constructed an empire, and defined championship excellence. This is a top 5 player in history, speaking. Many argue he is the greatest Laker to ever lace them up. When a giant like that puts Bryant in that conversation, it isn't fond memory, it is validation. Allen Iverson took it a step further, claiming that right behind Mike, Kobe stands as the greatest to ever do it.
I've never seen nobody as competitive like him, but Mike. That's it. Like, when people talk about, your favorite players and best players in the world, I say Mike and I say Kobe, and then everybody else.
Coming from a legend who went to war against him, that praise is gospel. But what solidified it for Bird was how Bryant operated in the trenches. Kobe demanded the impossible defensive tasks every single night. He solicited the challenge. He staked his reputation on locking down the opposition's ace, even if it drained the tank, for his offense. Then you look at the clutch moments. When the game tightened up and the atmosphere turned suffocating, most players looked to pass, terrified of the scrutiny if they missed. Kobe was the inverse. He demanded possession even with 2 defenders draping him and the entire building knowing he was pulling the trigger. Not because it was the efficient play, but because he viewed it as his burden to bear. Larry Legend lived in that pressure cooker. He recognized a fellow assassin instantly. Modern fans love to preach efficiency, but Bird hails from an era where a superstar's job was to eat the pressure, so the role players didn't have to. Kobe carried that weight for 20 years. He was willing to fail to brick shots to take the heat and have the audacity to demand the rock on the very next play. Here is where that internal ironclad discipline takes over. Kobe never required a coach to light a fire under him. He didn't need a system tailored to his strengths. He tortured himself into perfection. His Old running mates have shared stories about walking into the gym and finding Kobe already drenched in sweat hours before. The rest of the roster even swiped their keycards. Bird grasped a truth that casuals often miss. Raw talent has a shelf life. The history books are littered with guys who had god-tier gifts but faded into obscurity because they lacked the obsession to sharpen the blade. Take someone like Tracy McGrady's silky smooth. Effortless offense, but his window closed. Far sooner than it should have. Kobe watched that trajectory unfold in real time and vowed to never let that be his story. He refused to stagnate. Every single offseason, he added a new weapon to the arsenal. One summer it was footwork in the post. The next it was counterspins. Later, he mastered angles, tempo, and leverage because the raw explosion was starting to wane. Even in the twilight of his run when the wheels were clearly falling off, the man was still adapting. So when folks wonder why Larry Bird respects him so deeply, there is your answer. Bird looked at Kobe and saw a reflection. He saw Jordan. He recognized that quiet willingness to embrace the misery and let the scoreboard do the talking. But to truly grasp why the authentic legends like Bird align with Kobe so effortlessly, you have to understand the war zone he survived. And I don't mean that metaphorically. Kobe came into the league in 1996, and that landscape bore zero resemblance to the one LeBron entered in 2003, and it was a different universe compared to today. The game was engineered to break a scorer's spirit. First off, hand-checking was legal until the 2004-2005 season. Before that shift, a defender could jam a forearm into your chest, steer you, knock you off your path, and make every single dribble a physical confrontation. Men like Bruce Bowen, Ron Artest, Doug Christie, and Tayshaun Prince weren't there to just stay in front of you. Their job was to drain your soul, and the lane was patrolled by legitimate headhunters. You know, we're talking Shaq, Tim Duncan, KG, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, and Yao Ming. You didn't just cruise down the lane expecting a free bucket. If you attacked the rim, you were paying a tax in elbows, shoulders, and hard collisions. Contact that gets you ejected today was just standard operating procedure back then. Go watch the 2004 finals. The Pistons didn't give a damn about Kobe's reputation or the highlight reels. They swarmed him, battered him, forced him into low-percentage looks, and lived with the result. That era didn't coddle superstars, it hunted them. Another major difference, none of this load management nonsense we see in the modern game. I can't even count how many nights LeBron has sat out to preserve his body. Kobe was clocking 40-plus minutes a night, grinding through 82 games year after year. Taking a night off wasn't even in the vocabulary. If you could stand, you suited up and went to work. No alibis. That is when you truly understand Kobe's mental fortitude. In 2009, the man played a full slate with a fractured index finger on his shooting hand, and still averaged 26.8 a game while dragging the Lakers to a ring. Then, in the 2010 finals against Boston, his knees were basically dust, but he gritted his way through Game 7, ripping down 15 boards in one of the ugliest, most violent series ever played. And then you have that Spurs game in February 2016. Kobe's finger is literally bent sideways, looking completely mangled. But instead of panicking, he walks to the sideline, has his trainer Gary Vitti pop the joint back into place, and checks right back into the game like his hand wasn't facing the wrong direction 30 seconds prior.
He dislocated his finger, and it can be really, really difficult depending on the dislocation back into place. And then as soon as it goes in, he was gone. Like I patted him on the head, like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Next thing I know, he was gone. That in and of itself showed the toughness and the tenacity of Kobe Bryant.
Jump ahead to 2013 against Golden State. He tears his Achilles tendon in the middle of a play. Most guys are getting carried off on a stretcher. Kobe calmly limped to the line, sank both free throws, and only walked off when his body physically quit on him.
So Kobe Bryant cannot continue. But he's going to shoot the free throws.
That was his DNA. Pain wasn't a stop sign, it was rocket fuel. Now compare that to what we saw just a year later with LeBron. The guy is in the heat of battle and suddenly exits the game because his muscles tightened up getting carried.
On the bench as well, so good crossover by James, and on the landing, immediately cramps up.
Doris
Mike, I continue to use this handheld thermometer.
And people genuinely want to put him in the same sentence as Kobe. It isn't even the same stratosphere of sacrifice or durability. Kobe operated through agony that would make LeBron tap out instantly. James plays in a system that has smoothed out all the rough edges for these athletes. Let's run a quick simulation. Drop LeBron into Kobe's era and ask yourself honestly, does he still reign supreme? I can tell you right now he doesn't. He wouldn't even crack the top tier. 5 in those days. But forget about the stamina or the physical durability. The thing that really put Bryant in a league of his own wasn't just his mechanics. It was the psychological warfare, the anxiety he instilled in guys. Dwayne Wade actually talked about this specific aura.
So I'm walking with Kobe through the Olympic Village, and this is when I realized he was at a different level than I. This could speak 9 different languages. He spoke to everybody in their native tongue.
Real students of the game understand that Bryant's shot selection was chaotic by design. He would pull the trigger on looks that everybody else labeled terrible. It wasn't recklessness, it was calculated. He wanted to shatter your belief that you could guard him. You could watch film on him until your eyes bled and you'd still be guessing on game night. Now, LeBron, he's gifted, sure. But does he strike fear into you? Not exactly. He manages the game like a chess match, but that logic allows the opposition to build a blueprint. Guys know the tendencies, coaching staffs can draw up counters. That's why anybody with actual basketball IQ respects what the Mamba brought to the hardwood. He wasn't just elite, he was a horror movie. He was the type of operator who had you questioning your own instincts. Shaq didn't mince words, he called him the greatest to ever wear the purple and gold.
Kobe was the greatest Laker ever.
And that mental edge is what separated Kobe from almost everyone else in NBA history. Honestly, Kobe was greater at
almost every category compared to James. Whoever sparked this debate was reaching because Bryant's mid-range bag. His pivots, those fadeaways with a hand in his face, and his capacity to hijack the game in the fourth quarter. They are untouchable. James is a physical specimen, very flashy. But when you talk about that killer instinct, that intimidation and delivering, when it matters most, Bryant takes that crown every single day. The stats back it up too. Look at the buckets. Kobe's career high was 81 points in one night. LeBron topped out at 61. And it's not just the digits, it's how Bryant made it look. Fluid like poetry in motion. James plays bully ball, it's all muscle spacing and transition. Is he dominant? Absolutely, I'll concede that. But Bryant manufactured his offense through technique, maniacal focus, and grit. The volume is absurd. The man posted 122 games with 40 or more and 26 games dropping a 50-piece playoffs included. James only has 79 games breaking 40 points and a mere 15 times hitting the half-century mark. Keep in mind, Bryant did his damage before the NBA softened the rules to help scorers. Before the super team era, and way before this pace and space style gave modern stars a cushion, Bryant locked down an all-defensive selection 12 times. James only got the nod 5 times. That's the gap between saying, sure, he can guard, and thinking, damn, I am legitimately afraid to dribble near this dude. The Mamba was a pure terror for anyone lacing them up, even if everything we have been discussing hasn't settled the debate for you. Zoom out, look at the architecture of their careers, and the massive divide between the two becomes undeniable. James entered the association with the entire planet already bought in. They dubbed him the Chosen One. Everyone from ESPN to Nike to the league office had already bet the house on his narrative before he played a single minute. They needed a cash cow, a face who could move. Merch, sell out stadiums, and spike the ratings. He fit the mold. James's stardom was manufactured and pre-ordered. By the moment he notched his first 30-point triple-double in the postseason, the machine was already primed to crown him. And at the end of the day, that's what he is, a product, a showman. But Bryant, his road was paved differently. He leaped from prep school at 17 into a Shark Tank that didn't owe him a dime. Crowds actually jeered him as a rookie. Even after dropping 26 on Denver, even after hoisting the MVP trophy years later, the hate didn't stop. He had to scrap for every ounce of validation.
The star of stars of the greatest players in the world was the 2002 MVP
There wasn't a script written for him, no media conglomerate forcing us to like him. Every shred of credit he collected came from blood, sweat, and mania. Plus, James operates in an era that handed him the keys from day one. With outfits like Clutch Sports and this whole player empowerment wave, he tilts the entire system. We've seen head coaches axe teammates shipped out and lineups overhauled, all because the infrastructure catered to him. Bryant never had that luxury. He had to evolve. He had to decode every offense, every defensive rotation, every curveball the NBA pitched, and he conquered it all. He didn't ask for a handicap. He chewed through the adversity, survived the gauntlet, and cemented his spot as one of the coldest to ever touch the rock. That's why icons like Larry Bird respected his game immediately. Meanwhile, James relies on the narrative to remind us of his status. I mean, remember that clip where he dubbed himself the greatest of all time? That is just cringeworthy. Even when the lights went down, Bryant was basketball. He didn't just play the sport. He embodied it. You felt it in his swagger from the second he walked into the Lakers. Jim, back in 1996, he wasn't looking for a soft landing. He was hunting perfection. And he didn't give a damn if the locker room or the crowd turned on him for it. But LeBron, since day one, his existence has been a media circus. That television special in 2010 where he broadcast his move to Miami was one of the weakest stunts I have ever witnessed. Pile on the constant team, hopping the obsession with image management and the overseas messes like that Hong Kong situation in 2011, where he looked like he was chasing checks rather than standing on business. Then there is the nepotism shoehorning his son Bronny into the league. You start seeing the blueprint. The King's legacy feels manufactured, packaged, corporate. The Mamba never needed the spin. Kobe's moves after he hung up the sneakers only set his legend in stone. Him and Vanessa launched their family, foundation pouring real work into youth sports and getting people off the streets, community building without ever turning it into a marketing ploy. The man's impact was so heavy, the city gave him a holiday. The 24th of August is officially Kobe Bryant Day in LA. Even his creative side was lethal. In 2018, he won an Oscar for Dear Basketball, a project he wrote and voiced himself. That is cultural immortality. LeBron, for all the noise about his supposed greatness, hasn't touched that level of respect off the floor. He has influence, sure, but nothing feels authentic or organic with him. It circles back to what Larry Bird said. He laid it out plain: if you want a show, LeBron is your man. But if you were hunting for wins and absolute greatness, Kobe was the only choice.